As we saw with the Morning Midas just a few weeks ago, an EV fire on board a ship can be disastrous. So it's not surprising that as the number of EVs creeps slowly up, the risk of such a fire occurring on a regular roll-on roll-off car and passenger ferry increases as well. Likewise, the restrictions on when, if and how EVs are to be transported are also increasing, with the most obvious being the banning of any vehicle charging on board. That practice would seem like asking for trouble. Other companies have had to invest millions in specialised firefighting equipment to deal with a potential lithium-ion battery fire and conduct additional training for crew. Havila Kystruten, a Norwegian ferry company, has banned all EVs, much the cheapest and easiest solution all round. And in British Columbia, the local ferry company is banning the transport of damaged EVs of any kind, which means if your EV breaks down on one of the many islands and remote communities around the area, you're screwed. Welcome back to MGUY, British engineer and lawyer, now Sydney-based YouTuber. If you'd like to support this channel and display your anti-EV credentials to your Tesla-owning neighbours at the same time, why not buy some awesome MGUY merchandise like this mug, this baseball cap, or this t-shirt? Each high-quality item sports the MGUY No EVs sign, and they're all made to order, perfect for irritating the hell out of your local EV zealots. Visit store.mguy.tv or click the link in the description to check out the full range of products. And of course, you can always just buy me a coffee. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. The problem of new energy vehicles on ships and ferries is a significant challenge. It is still slowly grinding its way through the International Maritime Organization, which seems, ironically, to have ignored the EV fire problem and is more concerned with pushing out press releases about reducing greenhouse gases in global shipping. Easy green brownie points rather than solving difficult safety problems. This was the big news story back in April. Shipping nations agree on historic greenhouse gas tax. From 2027, all ships are required to use less CO2 emitting fuels or face penalties. It is aimed at forcing the industry to lower its carbon footprint, and not everyone is happy with the deal. Many of the world's largest shipping nations agreed on Friday to what is effectively the first ever global tax on greenhouse gas emissions for the industry, the International Maritime Organization IMO said. At a meeting in London, they decided to impose a minimum fee of $100 for every tonne of greenhouse gases emitted by cargo ships above certain thresholds. The European Union, EU, Brazil, China, India and Japan all voted in favour of the agreement. Major oil producers, Russia, the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia voted against it, while the United States abstained from voting. Shipping accounts for almost 3% of global greenhouse gas emissions, according to the IMO. Of course, all it will do is push up shipping costs for everyone. But trying to find much on the problem of EV fires is difficult. The subcommittee endorsed a roadmap and goal-based approach for developing fire safety systems and arrangements to reduce the fire risk of ships carrying new energy vehicles, including battery electric vehicles, BEVs. These will be submitted to the Maritime Safety Committee MSC 109 in December 2024 for consideration and endorsement. Well, that was in March 2024, and looking at those MSC 109 minutes, there's not even a mention of EVs or new energy vehicles at all, which is surprising given the seriousness of the issue. It seems the can is being kicked down the road. Perhaps the Morning Midas will add a jolt to the urgency. But with that background in mind, ferries play a vital role in the area around Vancouver because of the number of coastal communities and islands that depend on them for transportation. With about 37 vessels and over 25 routes, BC Ferries is one of the largest ferry operators globally and is fundamental to the prosperity and economy of British Columbia. The problem is that British Columbia is also full of EV zealots who like to use the ferries to transport their cars around the area. A viewer gives some background in an email. To understand the impact this may have for BC residents, you have to understand that the BC ferry system connects a number of small islands to South Vancouver Island, the Gulf Islands, and a few islands further north on Vancouver Island, like Denman Island. The only way to get off these islands by car is through BC Ferries. While these islands have small populations, from a few hundred to approximately 10,000, it means that if you own an EV in this EV mad province and it breaks down, you're stuck because you won't be able to truck it off the island. None of these islands are big enough to have EV repair facilities. You would have to pay a commercial barge company to remove it, and I hesitate to think how much that would cost. Which is absolutely correct, as we will see from the article. Why would you risk having your car stuck on an island unable to get it to a repair shop, just because you own an EV and not a regular car? It's yet another nail in the coffin of EV adoption, at least in this area. Transport Canada change forces BC Ferries to prohibit damaged EVs. BC Ferries is now prohibiting damaged electric vehicles from sailing on board its vessels due to a Transport Canada regulation preventing them from being transported. British Columbia remains one of the top leaders in Canada for electric vehicle adoption per capita. At one point, the province had the highest adoption rate in North America. Across Canada, Quebec now has the highest EV readiness score according to Clean Energy Canada's 2025 report, with BC in second place. For towing companies on Vancouver Island, there is no shortage of work handling those vehicles. We probably handle 10 to 15 EVs a day, said Don Affleck, owner of Peninsula Towing. We handle between 2 and 4 a week, said Jonathan Vipond, owner of Salt Spring Island Towing. However, towing companies may now face a harder time accepting jobs involving electric vehicles. The two towing company owners recently received a memo from BC Ferries outlining that many electric vehicles will no longer be allowed to sail on board its vessels. It's a problem brewing, there's a storm brewing, said Affleck. BC Ferries says that due to changes by Transport Canada, electric, hybrid and alternative energy vehicles are prohibited from charging up on board vessels and on its properties. Vehicles with minor or cosmetic damage that isn't affecting wiring or the battery will be allowed at the discretion of the vessel master, so long as they are driven under their own power. Vehicles with major damage, including exposed batteries, fluid leaks or wiring issues, won't be allowed on board. That also includes vehicles that are placed on flatbed trucks, such as tow trucks. BC Ferries does say full-sized commercial car carriers transporting operable and undamaged used or new vehicles to dealerships will be permitted. There's no way for me to tow it over on a flatbed tow truck because their wording stated that if it is inoperable, which it's going to be on a tow truck, I can't take it on board their vessels, said Vipond. Well, from a safety point of view, it makes perfect sense not to allow damaged EVs on a ferry. If you have no idea what condition the battery is in, why would you take the risk of a fire and a thermal runaway event? Of course, none of this would be necessary if we weren't forcing EVs down everyone's throats. Regular cars catch fire, sure, we get that. But simple fire extinguishing methods will easily deal with them. They are not an existential threat to an entire vessel. EVs, on the other hand, most certainly are. Thanks very much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any tips or stories, go there. If you'd like to watch another video, go there. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, go there. And please subscribe to this channel.